We're
Let's
absolutely
go.
honored to bring in this next guest. 12-time World Championship medals, 5-time Olympic medalist, the 100-meter gold in 2004 in Athens. We're pumped to have Justin Gatlin on the show. Justin, thanks for joining us, man. It's great to meet you. You got myself, Jeff, Andrea, Tracy Austin, Nick Monroe. I understand that you were actually watching the tennis earlier today when this whole power outage happened in Madrid.
I was watching, I was watching Fairland. He was in a process of serving, I believe, and then the power outage went out. And it reminded me actually in 2005 when I won double gold at the World Championships, I was thankful because a storm came through in Helsinki and it just kind of flooded everything. So it gave me a whole day to rest. So hopefully it gives some of the athletes a day to rest over there and get themselves ready for competition once again. But that hour-and-a-half walk, that is something crazy right now. So hopefully to get a chance to stop at a cafe, get them a little drink, and then kind of proceed to keep on walking.
Yeah, if we have one of the best sprinters of all time saying that's a long walk, it's definitely a long walk.
There in 10 minutes.
Justin, how much tennis do you watch these days? Are you watching quite a bit? And who do you like watching when you're watching it?
I do. So my wife is from Trinidad. She played for the national team as well. So she keeps me up to date on a lot of tennis when I'm traveling. So one of my favorites, obviously, I'm rooting for is Coco Gauff. Sablenka is I've watched her go through the ranks and rise to where she is. I have so much respect for her. Madison Keys, little known fact, we've had the same physical therapist when I was competing.
Oh, wow.
So shouts out to Erin Saltman. She helped keep my body in check, and same thing with Madison Keys. But, I love watching. I love kind of like taking the mental aspect of some of these players and how entertaining they are, like Gael, how dynamic he is on the court. And, you're watching these ladies and gentlemen do an amazing job out there, and they're out there way longer than I am. I'm only out there 9 seconds. So watching them, it blows my mind that they're out there so long.
Justin, I'm always interested in world-class athletes and world champions, in how they got interested in their sport, when that spark happened, and when the penny dropped that you went, I could be the fastest man in the world someday.
I think I kind of followed that same tradition when it comes to tennis. I found track early, but I found it in a way to where I wanted to be the best in high school. Then I wanted to get a full scholarship and go to a college. And then I was able to say, hey, I can take this and become one of the best in the nation. And then from there, I was like, I could be one of the best in the world. Yeah. So it was a series of adult situations, and I made the right decisions along the way with the help of my inner circle, with my family and my agent. And that's what actually helped me get to the point of where I am at the top of the mountain when it came to sprinting and elite.
And it was really interesting, the players you just mentioned, Arena and Coco, they are two of the best competitors that we have on the tour, and it requires a champion's mindset to be that competitor. What do you think makes a champion's mindset, a competitor's mindset? You were one of the best competitors in the world as well. What do you think it takes to be a champion?
I think the universal code is being obsessed with the process, because we all want to be great. We all want to win a championship. We all want to put a medal around our neck or hoist a trophy up in the air, but are you really obsessed with the process? Are you really taking it serious? Are you studying the opponents that you're going against, knowing their weaknesses, knowing their attributes that they bring to the court? Because it's going to be a long battle, regardless. Year after year, you're going to have to be able to be the best you can be. So hopefully you can be the best in the world. So for me, it was understanding the athletes I was running against, like Usain Bolt, and knowing what he brought to the table and the greatness he had, and just plugging away and just bettering myself as an athlete to be able to get on top of that podium.
Justin, in tennis, it's all about like the matchups, and you got to beat the person on the other side of the net. And we always talk about how it's difficult to like compare eras. But what I was thinking is so cool is Noah Lyles, who got the gold in Paris over the summer. He ran a 9.784. I think he won by like 5 thousandths of a second. Your personal best, 9.74. I think it was in Doha. But how pure and cool is that? And do you actively think about that? Like, okay, my best was good enough for gold in this Paris, or does every race have a little difference of who's kind of next to you on the track?
Well, see, now you're talking like a retired delusional athlete, because yes, I do look at myself in that way and say 9.74 would have won gold. But if I stepped on that track in 2004, my legs would not get 9.74 that day. So definitely shouts out to Noah Lyles. He talks the talk, he walks the walk. I understand what it takes to be able to run that fast, right? And to be able to come out where 100,000s of people are watching you in person, and then millions are watching you at home, and you have to block out all that distractions and noise to be able to be the best you are on that day. It takes a lot out of you mentally and physically to do so. So he went out there and won by the slimmest of margins to be able to become the Olympic champion. And I've had that over and over again in my career. So I know what it takes to be able to do that mentally, but physically right now, I think I could give you still a good 10-0, you know?
A 10-0, that's
Oh
still
my
good.
God, yeah.
Justin, I think to piggyback along with that, you know, with tennis players, we have so many high pressure moments in matches, deuce, add in, deciding point in doubles. How did you prepare for high pressure moments with the Olympics, World Championships? I mean, you're getting ready for a race. How did you prepare for these high pressure moments?
You have to take it. You have to take each round. Obviously, we have prelims, semis, and finals, and you want to make sure that you prepare yourself for that prelims and your legs and your race strategy is ready. Your semis is going to be a little harder, and actually, the semis comes an hour before the finals, so you hope that you don't get a hard or tough semis like Coco and Madison may have against Swiatek, because she's a machine, right? And to be able to make that finals, it's kind of like you're kind of just, from that point, it's all downhill. It's all about showing up and showing out for that finals. It's all about the attrition. And if you get across that line first, then victory is yours. So it takes a lot out of you. And you just kind of have to push that in the back of your mind and to say, I'm here for this. I practice every day of the week for this moment. And if I can practice every day of the week for 9 seconds, I can definitely get the job done.
And we talk a lot about that with tennis, with visualization. Was that something that you used as well, visualizing? And then also right now with these players, they had, you know, this power outage and they've had to sit around and wait. You know, a lot of times, sometimes we just use so much energy in that kind of moment. And then once we get on the court, we've lost all that energy. So how did you deal with rain delays or the power outage, let's say, that you had in Helsinki? How did you get ready to be ready for the moment when it was your time?
So my coach at that point in time used to play mind games with us. So he taught us how to get ready for mental warfare and distractions and things of that nature. So we would be at practice and he would hold practice for an extra 20 minutes just so we can say, okay, we might be ready 20 minutes ago, but are you ready now? You have to be ready at the moment when it's time for you to be ready. And for me, visualizing, I used to stand at the starting line before our race and I would walk a whole 100 meters. And when I'm walking that 100 meters, I actually would envision how the race would unfold. I would see, okay, this guy over here, he's a great starter. I have to make sure I got out in front of him. This guy to my right of me, he is a great finisher. I have to make sure that when I'm through my transition, the middle part of my race, I'm keep stepping down. Arm swing is aggressive and powerful, and I stay in front of that opponent. So you always have to lay everything out how it should go. And hopefully you are looking at the variables that could happen as well. And the mental warfare for me is once I got to that finish line and I started walking back towards the starting line before the race, I would be the last thing that my opponents would see. So I would make sure that I would be in their heads, realizing they're focused on the race, but they also are seeing me.
Oh, I love that.
I love that. Actually, that was my question. You took two questions.
They all went together.
But no, I really wanted to go into that half an hour before a race and then how technical you get for getting out of the starting blocks. But you spoke about that. So I'm going to go to another question. As a performance coach now, how do you think your ability to handle and cope with pressure? You're helping so many other, I think, juniors and other athletes. How do you transfer that to them?
I think because I'm still not that far removed from the sport. I retired in 2021. I still speak the athlete's language, right? So you have a lot of coaches who have performed, but it might have been almost a decade ago. So they're speaking more from a coach's standpoint. But from an athlete standpoint, I try to get those young athletes to understand, like, what is it going to feel like and going to be for you in that moment? What is the preparation for you lined up in that moment? And I volunteer and give my time to go to youth track meets, and I give tips and advice to young athletes when they're out there because they may want to work on their start, they may want to work on their finish, and just those little tidbits of information, it goes a long way. I have a lot of athletes that come back to me and tap me on the shoulder and be like, I PR'd today. I had a personal best because of what the tips you gave me just within that day. So it matters because it's a non-coachable moment when you're on that court. It's a non-coachable moment when you're on that track. You have to perform to the best of your abilities. Your coach can tell you everything leading up to that moment, but it's for you to be able to execute within that moment. And if sometimes you feel very lonely out there, you may have that other opponent across the net from you, and they may have 7 opponents that you're racing against. But when you're at that starting line, you feel alone. You got to be out there and be prepared for those moments.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? I think that's very interesting, and that's so alike to tennis, that moment of feeling alone. And every time I watch the track, it's something really interesting to me. It's almost like a theater, right? Like a stage. The players, I'm saying, the runners are out there and they're performing for the cameras. They're bringing their big personalities, big personas. Is that a way to sort of mask that loneliness? Or who are you performing for? For the cameras, for the guy next to you, for yourself? What is that all about, that moment?
I think it goes hand in hand. I mean, whichever athlete, like let's say Noah Lyles, he loves performing for the audience. That's what gets him going. For me, it was performing for the people who vested in me, the ones like my coaches and my agents. I make sure that I put a lot into that, that performance that I'm going to put out there. So once I come across the line, it's not about us hanging our heads saying, man, we can get them next time. It's about the fact of congratulations, we got the job done. And that's what it really means.
It's the purest form of competition, right?
Yeah.
There's no line judges. Just who's faster. Tennis is a little bit like that, but not as pure as track. I have so many questions. This is awesome, man. Thank you for joining us, Justin. We're covering a tournament this week in Madrid with some altitude, 2,200 feet, about half a mile, and the ball flies more. Some players change their tension. In the track world, sounds silly question, but like, does the Stop.
I'm not laughing.
Does the body move faster through the air? Like, can you get faster times in altitude? Or maybe that's like a harder to breathe situation, different preparation. What are all the adjustments when you're racing the altitude?
Well, of course, I mean, we don't have that many tools to be able to work with like in tennis, obviously knowing the trajectory of the ball, the racket. I learned in my rookie year, because no one told me about altitude. So they always said that you could run faster in altitude. I was like, I'm so excited. But I'm going through my warm up and I'm so tired in my warm up. I'm like, why am I so winded so quickly? And then I realized that in that altitude, you have to find that balance.
Yeah.
You got to kind of elongate your warm up. You got to take your time and be prepared. But when you get out there to perform, the performance will come back to you, because obviously you're at altitude. So hats off to all those players out there who are actually out there on the court playing in altitude, because I can imagine that they're probably a little more fatigued. They're probably a little more winded. But if you prepare for that and take your time through the warm up and the process, you probably will be able to have a victory on the other side.
Well, Justin, as we're looking at this picture of you with Usain Bolt, I mean, I got to play against the Bryans and some of the best players in the world. You got to compete against some of the best players or some of the best runners. So what was it like competing against Usain Bolt, and who was your toughest competitor, do you feel like?
Well, definitely my toughest competitor was Usain Bolt by far. But the ones you train with, they always learn little things about you. So I was always cautious and weary of my sparring partner, should I say, because they know your weaknesses. They know when you're having a bad day. They can see it in your eyes. They can see the temperament. So they can come out there and kind of prevail against you in those moments when you're not ready. But Usain, he always showed up. And I think that's one thing we learned about each other. And he actually came on my podcast, Ready, Set, Go. And he gave me so much praise. He was like, you're the guy who pushed me year in, year out. We battled 6 to 7 years constantly. He said all the other guys, he battled them maybe 1 or 2 years, but Justin showed up every year ready to give his best performance. And he gave a lot of praise, saying I kept him on his toes. So I'm proud of that. And in 2017, after I won, beating him in his last race at the World Championships, I paid homage to him. I kind of bowed to him a little bit. And then I said, and people asked me and said, well, why'd you do that? I was like, when you go against your toughest opponent, they bring out the best player in you. They bring out the best runner in you. And on top of that, they change you as a human being, because you become more disciplined. You have a different clarity of the sport and a respect for your opponents. So I had to pay homage to him.
Kind of like Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer did.
Yeah.
I think they kept pushing each other to better heights. But Justin, I want to ask you about the Olympics, because as tennis players, we have a major 4 times a year. If we mess up at the French, we got Wimbledon right around the corner. Same with the US Open. But for the Olympics, and I know you've won plenty of world championships, but I would think the Olympics is the one that you want. So you're getting up on the line at 9.74 seconds, and it's the Olympics. If you mess up there, it's a whole nother 4 years. How do you train your mind? What are you thinking to not be thinking, oh my gosh, this is just such a big moment, and it's now or 4 years from now?
I was taught never let the moment be bigger than you. People fill those stadiums to see you compete at your best. So never let that moment be bigger than you. And you kind of find that balance to where it's like the perfect day you've had at practice where you feel unstoppable, you were getting times necessary on the track and you're ready for whatever competition's ahead of you. So I kind of use that same mindset to make sure that I'm there when I'm standing at the starting line of the biggest moment of my life and saying, this is about to be the best practice of my life. Because you really
So
have
you're
no
making it
pressure at
small
practice.
instead of big.
Yeah, you make it small. You make it small because if you go out there thinking and you put that moment on a pedestal, you'll never accomplish or reach that moment. We always think that sports is like a movie where it's like you stand on the starting line and then magically everything's going to happen in your favor. It doesn't work out that way. You have to be able to be there for that moment, and you have to make that moment small so you can stand on top of that moment.
Yeah, Justin, I've been there, and I agree with you, but it's hard to do. And I think it would be even harder to do because every 4 years.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah, and maybe on that.
I usually come back around.
Yeah, but maybe
Go ahead,
on that note, were you always able to do that, or is that something that you learn? And is that something maybe you can also teach as you are a performance coach now and you help particularly with mindsets? Do you think you can teach that to everybody, or is that something you have to be born with? How was it with you?
I think I was born with being a showman and showing up for those moments. I consider myself like a clutch athlete.
Yeah.
But I also believe that it's something you can teach those athletes because they're looking at the moment as the Olympics, the moment that they've been waiting for since they were 9 years old. Okay, it's here. But what are the consequences if you don't get the job done? Like you said, you have to wait another 4 years, and then you're going to be 4 years older. You're going to be 4 years slower than you was previously. So you have to strike when the iron's hot in that moment, and you have to be able to go out there and find in your mind and your body what's going to make it smaller, so you can go out there and accomplish whatever your goal is. I usually try to revert back to whatever got small little Justin into the sport and why he loved it and had a passion for it. And that's where my love is for it. I just keep thinking about that and not thinking about the pressure of the audience or the pressure of making my sponsor happy. It was the fact of little Justin wanted to be an Olympic gold medalist, and that's why we're here. Let's get it done for him.
You were in the top tier of track and field athletes, and a lot of times we highlight players in the challenger, the future level, more the minor leagues, ranked 200, 300 of the world. Great accomplishment, but maybe not making the best living. And I think a lot of casual fans out there don't know about track and field outside the Olympics. I learned a lot when I watched Sprint, this Netflix show, which I loved. It was great stories, great personalities. Could you maybe give some insight to fans at home? If someone wanted full earning potential, how long is the track and field calendar? How many weeks out of the year would they be competing? And how good do you have to be to feel like you're making a good living as a sprinter?
So, your salary, usually your base salary comes from a shoe sponsor, because shoe sponsors kind of like dictate, the income in our sport. So a Nike, Adidas, those kind of sponsors are usually paying your base salary and your bonuses as well. So you making money from also, if I ran in Madrid, we have races in Madrid. If you're a bigger name athlete, you get an appearance fee just to show up. And then obviously there's prize money from winning as well. And there's a tiering system. So you can win the big jackpot if you win. And then obviously from there, the money's gonna get smaller and smaller as whatever place you get going forward. So you can make a good earning if you're out there really kind of getting that hustle on and making sure you get around the world and running great events and kind of making sure you make your name established. Because if you make your name established, then at the end of the day, these individual races from Shanghai, which is happening this weekend, they're going to want to see you come. They're going to want the next meet promoter is going to want to see you come to their meet as well, because you're going to put butts in seats.
Real quick though, what would a prize money be like? I feel like people at home would want to know. Follow up, 100-meter world champion gold medal. What is roughly that prize money? Just the prize money.
So our sport is changing right now. So I don't know if you've heard of Michael Johnson has started the Grand Slam track, and to be able to win the Grand Slam in your respective events, you can come away with $100,000.
Gotcha.
Last place is getting $10,000. So that's great for our sport because there's athletes before from the Diamond League or the Golden League who are getting just a free trip sometimes where you're going to run, and if you get last placed, you're not making any money at all, and now you're coming home with empty pockets. So our sport is changing in a way to where athletes have more security financially, and they're not as stressed as they once was before because it was operating at an amateur level. Now it's kind of going into that professional realm now. And having that said, I've worked with an athlete mentally who's a friend of the family, Jordan Lee, who's 14 years old.
Yeah.
He plays tennis,
Yeah.
and he's ranked, I think, #2 in the U.S. right now.
He's our up-and-comer.
I've talked to him. Yeah, he's an up-and-comer, and I've been talking to him on and off, definitely, and just making sure his mindset is ready to be able to stay hungry and play at a high level.
Justin, I love that you're working with Jordan Lee because he's one of our guys that's coming up quick. We've had a lot of other athletes from other sports, Reggie Bush, Larry Fitzgerald, and I love to ask them the question of what was their why? You kind of touched on it a little bit, little Justin wanting that gold medal, but what was your why? What pushed you every single day to want to be the best you can be? And then also, do you have any regrets from your career, things that maybe you learned that now you're pushing down to Jordan Lee and all the people that you work with?
I would say my regret is, and it's only because it's from my era. My era was not a social media era. I come from 2004, 2005, that era where social media wasn't as big as it is today. But show your persona. These athletes have an opportunity to show their persona, show who they are, humanize themselves, because that's where you're going to get a lot of fans. So win or lose, the people who really love you and really want to root for you, they're going to be there for you, because we've all been athletes before. And athletes are perceived almost as robots. You show up on the court and people expect you to play at the highest level that you can play, not realizing maybe that you have the flu or you have a stomach bug and you have to navigate through that. So I really feel, for me, that was one of the biggest regrets, but something I really couldn't change because I was so dialed in as just being an athlete instead of also being an icon in our sport from a persona standpoint. My why has changed throughout the years. I've had a career that lasted for 20 years in our sport, and usually a male sprinter, their career lasts only for 8 years. So I've been in the sport for a very long time. So my why changed from being a gold medalist, and my second year out, I won the Olympic gold. So my why had to change really quick. So I kind of delved into kind of understanding the science of sprinting, the biomechanics of it. And I would set small goals of becoming a better sprinter along the way throughout the years, and accomplishing those small personal goals helped me sustain my career and actually evolve so I can stay in the sport longer. So my why was always about tapping out my talent, making sure that at the end of my career, I had nothing left on the table, had no regrets, and I can leave my spikes at the finish line and walk away happy.
Love that.
What a cool
Love
chat.
that.
We
Love
love
that.
the sports crossover. This is going to be a cool guest either way, but with no tennis, it was even better. Can you give us another holler on the podcast? There it is, Ready, Set, Go. You can get it anywhere they can get the podcast, yeah?
Yeah, it's on all streaming channels. You can find it on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Like I said, we just had Usain Bolt on maybe a couple weeks ago. We're going to start doing those crossovers as well for other athletes with mindset. So hopefully you guys can be people listening at home can be able to kind of tune in to Ready, Set, Go and learn a little bit about my sport, but also mindset when it comes to athletes.
Yeah, I think we learned a lot today. Appreciate the time, Justin.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate
Thanks so
it, buddy.
much.
Thanks.
Have a good
Congrats
rest
on
of
a
the day.
phenomenal
Thank you
career.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you,
and
man.
I'll still be tuning in to Madrid.
All right.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.